Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, our guest is Elias Guerra. Elias is the founder and CEO of Popwallet, a mobile wallet customer experience platform working with some of the most innovative brands in the world to deliver contactless customer experiences to people through mobile wallets like Apple Wallet and Google Pay. These experiences include dynamic coupons and offers, rebates, loyalty and gift cards, tickets, and other lightweight branded content. Prior to founding Popwallet, he spent his career doing product and market development for Yahoo twice, Flurry, IBM, and Thomson Reuters. Elias has an MBA from USC and a BA from Pepperdine University. So without further delay, sit back, relax, plug your earphones in, and let's jump right in to this conversation with Elias. Welcome, Elias.
Thank you, Unique. Great to be here with you today.
All right. So I know the bio kind of shared a little bit about your journey, but I always like to hear in the guest's words, in your own words, how would you describe your journey? How is it that you got to where you are today, and what has that been like for you?
Yes, started the Popwallet about 5 years ago, along with a co-founder, CTO, Wes Biggs. Popwallet is a mobile wallet marketing automation and customer experience management platform. That's really just a long way of saying that we provide software tools for companies to engage their consumers through mobile wallets like Apple Wallet and Google Pay. But Popwallet is a technology company, and ironically, my own journey did not start in technology. I kind of fell into it at a young age. When I went to university at Pepperdine, I studied history and languages and liberal arts. And as a child, I really wanted to be a lawyer. At least wow. I thought that that's what I wanted to be. And my first job out of undergraduate school, my whole plan was to work in a law firm, study for the LSATs, and then start law school the following year. And after working in that environment, just realized and seeing firsthand what that work really was like, realizing I don't think this is for me. And so as a 22-year-old was, confronted with this watershed moment, and somebody at the firm actually connected me to a consulting firm, firm that did litigation consulting. And so I started with consulting shortly thereafter, but in the technology space and learning technology as I went along, and not having studied that in school, but being familiar with how some of these things work, I was able to take classes at night, things like data communications and programming and database management, and ultimately learn how technology works. And did that for a few years. Went to business school, came out of business school really on the other side. So from that point, less about building technology, more about selling technology and doing partnerships and sales and business development for companies like IBM and then Yahoo. And ultimately about a decade ago, started getting into the mobile space and being really fascinated by mobile advertising technology and mobile marketing technology, and was fortunate to work for a company that Yahoo acquired, a mobile app analytics company that was called Flurry. And I worked for Yahoo before Flurry, and then left Yahoo to join Flurry, worked there for 2 years, and then Yahoo acquired us, and so went back to Yahoo as part of this acquisition. But it was really that experience with this mobile app analytics company and seeing a lot of data around consumer behavior and this new paradigm that was mobile. Think about the past decade as more and more people were using smartphones and apps proliferated and smartphones proliferated, and seeing what people were doing on their phones and just recognizing an opportunity in market to make those user experiences better, and to make it better for the brands who are trying to reach those users. And that's when we saw the middle part of the last decade, mobile wallets really around 2015 become more prominent in that arena. And we just saw a business opportunity there. So that's a little bit about my own journey, how I got to starting Popwallet about 5 years ago.
All right. So your company focuses a lot on integration of contactless customer experiences, right? With these mobile pay platforms. if you're in a culture, because like in Jamaica, people are still very skeptical. I know, like I travel to the US quite often, and my sister lives in Canada. And I see people use the Apple Pay and the Google Pay, and it's very easy. They've clearly adapted to the technology really well, and they trust it. But what if you're trying to integrate this into a culture or a country or a market where it is that the persons there are very skeptical because they don't understand how the technology works? They're not necessarily quick to jump on board. How do you get those customers to feel as comfortable using those methods of payment as they would if they were using their credit card or even cash? How do you get them to that state?
Yeah, it can be difficult to break through initially, and there often is concerns. It's ironic because there are often concerns around security of
Right.
using a mobile wallet to pay for something or to transact and not really knowing where your data is going. The irony is that it's actually far more secure. The way that the data is encrypted and transmitted is far more secure than, say, certainly carrying paper cash or even a credit card. The plastic credit cards, certainly with the mag stripes before, now those have largely been or have been replaced by chips, is more secure. But an easy way to think about the difference in security is, let's say I hand you my credit card and you hand me your phone, right? Who's more likely to be able to go out and run up some purchases, right? Some fraudulent purchases. The person with the credit card or the cash, right? This paper or plastic,
Mm-hmm.
they can use that. They can spend that at least until that credit card is canceled. With your phone, there's this layer of security where you have to be able to authenticate. You have to be able to get into the phone into the first place, and then you often have to authenticate again to do your transaction. And when that transaction occurs, it is done in a safe and encrypted manner. And I think once, but that's a lot for an individual to really think about. Whoa, is this that much safer? But
Mm-hmm.
once people really start using it, what we find the key is it's just that convenience. It's just easier. And rather than carrying around, your paper or plastic, these physical objects, more and more people globally, they just have their smartphones with them at all times. And so if you're in the store and you need to buy something, or you're going somewhere, you need to access something, it's likely that your phone is with you on your person within arm's reach, and you can easily use it to make that transaction. And that's where we see on a really large scale that shift in consumer behavior, where that smartphone, it used to be that it was very much about these heads down immersive experiences where you're scrolling your social feed and you're reading your news, and that still happens by and large, these content consumption experiences. But increasingly, that smartphone is becoming the way that people interact with the world around them, and it
Mm-hmm.
becomes that interface. To think of it, if you're buying your groceries in a store, or you mentioned traveling, if you're getting on a flight, saving your, not that we're doing a lot of flying these days, but back when we used to get on airplanes more often, you're saving your boarding pass to your mobile wallet, and you're going to a movie theater and saving your ticket. These types of experiences, they're just easier to do as people use that smartphone to interact with the world around them. So in these new markets, we find it's usually convenience, and once people start using it and doing it, it really takes off from there. I want to add one more note on that. That is actually shifted a bit more recently, where safety has become paramount in the minds of consumers. Obviously, with the pandemic, this idea of being in a store and touching things, and handing a card to somebody or handing paper to somebody, that consumer consciousness around remaining safe during their shopping experiences
Mm-hmm.
is another driver of these contactless transactions through mobile wallets.
Amazing, amazing, great. So, based on your experience and the fact that you guys are clearly pioneers in this space and you're doing really, really well, maybe could you share with us one or two things that you think will trends that maybe will continue, or new emerging things that you think will come about in the next maybe 2 to 3 years based on where we're at? Because I know definitely since the pandemic globally, whereas safety may not have been as important to a business when it relates to customer experience, it is now something that you have to integrate into your customer experience strategy. How are we going to let our customers feel safe in this environment. And, some companies definitely, I think, integrated it before COVID, but it's become even more prevalent now, as you mentioned before. I would definitely prefer to take out my phone and do a tap than have to go into my wallet and hand you my card and you touch it. I don't know where your hands were, or, any form of money transaction. So do you see any emerging trends coming about?
Well, precisely what we're talking about. It's critical, right? If you want to deliver that outstanding customer experience, what does your customer want? The person coming in to your store or attending your event, they want to engage with you as a brand or as a store, right? The shopper, in a way that feels good to them, in a way that in this scenario is safe. And this idea of touching things. So this trend towards contactless and enabling people to go about their daily lives out in the real world without having to touch anything more than they have to, right? It's this unnecessary contact. It's this idea of, if I'm standing in a checkout line, do I really have to pull out my plastic loyalty card and hand it to the checkout person and have them scan it and then hand cash, or can I do this just, from about 10 centimeters away by holding my phone near the payment terminal and transacting that way? And that's a more delightful experience for the customer, and that's something that can be enabled and delivered. And that's something that we're seeing increasingly the customers want. And now we talk about shopping, but really anything. The trend that we see really developing and continuing into the future is that what I mentioned earlier, this idea of my smartphone is that interface to the world around me. So whatever I'm trying to access, we've seen implementations around cars, automobiles, right? There are certain car manufacturers where you can start your car using your mobile wallet, right? We've student IDs, and if you're accessing your dorm room using your mobile wallet to unlock that door, right? Or access your meal plan. Of course, things like tickets for transportation here in New York City, all of the subway stations now, you can just tap your phone, tap your mobile wallet, and easily access and get on the train. So really anything that you need to access that requires some type of authentication as an individual, we see more and more of those use cases developing over the couple of years. And even related to the pandemic, this idea of getting vaccinated and having your vaccine passport, right? Right now, and even mine today, I have a paper vaccination card, but now we see different government authorities enabling that to be mobilized, right? And in some instances saved into a mobile wallet. So if you want to go somewhere and prove that you've been vaccinated, right? We're talking about how the world has changed so rapidly. You'll be able to use your mobile wallet for that. So we definitely see that trend continuing in the coming years.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, so Elias, could you share with us how do you stay motivated every day? We're in this digital space. How do you stay connected and motivated and just get your team going constantly every day and get yourself going?
Yeah, there's a feedback loop. I do what I can to motivate, my team, the people that I work with. They do the same for me. It's energizing when, we see products that are built, capabilities that are added that we can then deliver to a customer and our own customers, the companies that we work with, right? We're a B2B to C platform. So we'll work with brands like Nestle and Mars or DSW and David's Bridal, different brands and retailers, but we'll provide them technology that they can then go use to engage their customers in this safe and contactless way through mobile wallets. And so I get motivated when I see something that we've enabled out in the wild, right? Where I can save a Nestle DiGiorno offer into my mobile wallet and go use it in a store. I think that's fantastic, right? Or if I receive a Mars Snickers gift card and that I can save into my mobile wallet and go see it. And so, and that gets our team excited, and then their excitement excites me. And then that, so it's this feedback loop and reinforcement. And so I think it's a matter of moving forward every day and benefiting, frankly, from some tailwinds in the market that really help, and we had to anticipate this several years ago. It wasn't as obvious when we started, as it's become obvious now, this need for these mobile wallet types of interactions. But yeah, it's all very motivating when we see it come together out in market.
Amazing. All right. Could you also share with us maybe what's the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you absolutely cannot live without in your business?
Oh, in our business, the one source, that's that's a tough question because I'm a voracious consumer of content. I access quite a bit. I will say that, interestingly, something that I look at a lot is, for me, and maybe it's not as obvious, but something like the New York Times, where it's more about like, what are people doing? Like, how are humans behaving? What's happening in different markets, different global markets, right? How is behavior changing? And what are those stories that are representing this human behavioral change? So trying to understand really like what's happening in the world. And then, of course, that's the 30,000 foot view, right? How do we then apply it to, right, ground level that says, well, based on, these behaviors, based on these trends or these things that are happening, here's what we can build and then sell and then service and market, right, to help capitalize on what's happening in the world around us. So I do try and, of course, I read industry, trade, and technology, journals, things of that nature pretty constantly, but just trying to, remove yourself from that to a degree and just understand what's happening in the world around, I think really helps our business quite a bit.
Nice. All right. So the New York Times is something you
The New York
definitely.
Times.
I think that's the first time I've heard that one on this podcast of our 100+ episodes. So you learn something new every day, and you really do need to keep in contact with what people are doing and how they're connecting with each other. Now, Elias, could you share with us maybe one or two books that have had the biggest impact on you? It could be a book that you read recently, or even a book that you read a very long time ago, but it still has had a great impact on you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do enjoy reading. I think something I'm trying to work into my own life is reading more fiction. I tend to read a lot of nonfiction. But a book I just finished a couple of weeks ago is called 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. It was written by this author, Yuval Harari. He wrote a while back, he wrote Sapiens, which is, human history, but condensed within 300 pages, which is quite a monumental task. And then he wrote the follow-up to that is Homo Deus, which is thinking about how does humankind evolve in the years to come, right? With the technologies like AI and robotics, and what does the future look like? And 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, I thought it was appropriate because as we entered, 2021, thinking about these different topics, and it looks at big topics, and each chapter is broken out by a topic that he'll cover in great detail. So just again, to my earlier point of reading the New York Times, it just gives us other perspective on what's happening in the world, right? These things around globalization and politics and nationalism and liberalism and how all these things interplay. And so I'll read a book like that and I'll think about, okay, how does this apply to, our mobile wallet marketing automation and customer experience management platform? So, trying to tie those things back to our business as I can. But that was a great book that I recently read, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century.
All right, sounds good. So we will have the link to that book in the show notes of this episode for any of our listeners that want to tap into that great content. Now, Elias, could you share with us what's the one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? It could be something that you're working on to develop yourself or your people.
Yeah, the one thing, certainly, Popwallet, us having started it 5 years ago, we're seeing good growth and momentum, but we're still a startup. All right. And so we're still in that growth stage and seeing these shifting trends and our ability to build and deliver on it. I think that gets me excited every day. So that's something that's probably what consumes the bulk of my time, is just thinking of how can we, and it's really taking that step that we took and going from 0 to 1, creating something out of nothing that is of value, and then thinking, well, how do we go to those next levels, that from 1 to 10? And that's really what we're focused on now. is how do we scale that? I will say, I know you asked for one thing, but I'm going to do things. So also just being a father. I have a 9-year-old daughter. Her name is Wynn. She's absolutely wonderful. She is the apple in my eye. And so when I'm not focused on Popwallet, she's my primary focus. And, what kinds of things can we do? And it's exciting here in New York City as people are getting vaccinated, the weather's getting nicer. There's this sense of, vibrancy and life, things coming, back. And so experiencing a lot of that, not only myself, but through her eyes as we try and, reintegrate into the world as things open up more since they've been so, closed. It's been a difficult year for so many this past year, but there's, optimistic signs going forward. And I'm very encouraged by that.
Agreed. All right. So we spoke a lot about Popwallet. We spoke about why it's important to have this contactless customer experience, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that popped into my mind while you were speaking is how is it, like with the mobile wallets, they have the power to drive not just commerce, but also loyalty and affinity for all kinds of brands. So what I wanted to know was, how is it that as a mobile brand, do you have to be a mobile brand in order to have a contactless customer experience?
Not necessarily. That tends to be our sweet spot where we work the most. And so it's a brand. It can be a brand for a product like a consumer packaged goods, like, again, think of Snickers or DiGiorno pizza, or it can be a store. We work a lot with actual retailers. And so the best use case for mobile wallet usage is when you're a product that's sold in physical stores, or if you're a store yourself. It's less effective when it comes to e-commerce, right? And of course, e-commerce, more and more people buying things online.
Right.
But the vast majority of purchases are still made in store. Right. And stores aren't going away, right? That environment is shifting and changing, but they're not going away. And so we work with brands primarily to engage shoppers in this safe and contactless way. And the idea and how it drives affinity and loyalty is, can I just make it easy and convenient and safe for the shopper? Can I delight them when they come into my store or when they buy my product? Can I reward them? Can I understand what they're interested in and relate to them, in a way that's personal and that shopper responds to? And so we are an enabling technology. We're not a panacea that solves, world hunger and all of these problems. But for a brand that wants to engage consumers in a meaningful way on their mobile devices, like, we can provide them pretty interesting and robust tools to do that. And if you make a shopper happy, if you go into a store and you have a good experience, you're more likely to come back, right? If you buy a product and that was a delightful experience, and maybe you get rewarded for your loyalty, right? And we can make it easy to deliver those awards all through the mobile wallet, then you're more likely to remain loyal to that brand. And so it's really about enabling those behaviors. Now, of course, mobile wallets, the purview is much larger than that, right? And again, it's this idea of using the phone to interact with the world around. So there's a lot more that can be done with it. But working with brands and retailers, that's primarily where we've been focused thus far.
All right. Okay. So that definitely puts into perspective who it is that this technology is best suited for. And then, depending on where the listener is at in their business line, they can identify if this would be something that they would definitely benefit from, and how it is that it will definitely integrate to help their, as you said, have their customers have a more delightful experience. Because, we all want to have experiences that when we think about it, we say, I'd do it again. And when you think about your customer experiences, how many of those would you really want to repeat over and over again?
Right. Yeah. And customers, they really appreciate being rewarded for their loyalty. And that's something that can be made easy through the mobile wallet. And so an example, when we think about the use cases that are supported, that our clients, deliver through mobile wallets, it's for things that people want. It is things like coupons, right? Who doesn't like to save a couple bucks when they're making a purchase, right? Or loyalty, right? If I'm buying the same brand or shopping at the same store, you're a customer. Hey, show me some love, right? Like, give me a little kickback, or give me, some points or some other reward. And so if we can make it easy for the customer to earn these rewards, right? To redeem their offers, but do so in the same way that gives the brand or that store visibility into that customer and the ability to directly interact with them through that mobile wallet, through the card that coupon that they save into the mobile wallet, right? Or that gift card that they use, or that ticket to the event. Then that our role as a technology provider makes it better for the customers. It makes it better for the brands. And if we can just bridge those two things, then I think we're onto something.
Amazing. All right. Brilliant. Okay, so Elias, our guests, our listeners would have listened to this episode, and they are quite intrigued with you and what you're doing as well as your company. Where can they find you online if they wanted to connect with you further?
Sure. So the best place is just our company website. It's popwallet.com. Or I can always be found on LinkedIn, just Elias Guerra. Search me, and I'm happy to connect and engage with anybody who's interested in learning more about mobile wallets and how it can help provide these delightful customer experiences.
All right. So before we wrap our interviews up with our guests, we always like to ask our guests, do you have a quote or a saying that during times of adversity or challenge, you'll tend to revert to this quote? It kind of helps to get you back on track or get you refocused. Do you have one of those?
I do, absolutely. And it's funny because this came up last year reading a book with my daughter. The book is called Wolfpack, and is written by Abby Wambach, who's a great U.S. women's soccer player. And it's a very inspiring book, and it's wonderful reading with my then 8-year-old daughter. But there's a quote in this book, and the quote is, "A girl who never gives up can never fail." And I was reading this with my daughter, and it just resonated. A girl who never gives up can never fail. And it's something that I try and teach her, right, as she grows, right, and empowering her to know that if she doesn't quit, that she can succeed, that she can achieve her objectives. But also, like, I apply that to our own business, right? We're still a startup. As I mentioned, we're still small, we're growing, and we're doing some good things. And as long as we don't give up, as long as we keep moving forward, we're going to be successful, right? We're not going to fail. And so when I read that last year, it really resonated, and it is something that I do repeat to myself and those around me often.
Amazing. All right. And that came from a children's book.
Well, it was actually not a children's book. I read it to a child, but it's child friendly.
Okay.
It was written by Abby Wambach, who's one of the great U.S. American women's soccer players in history. It's just a very inspiring book, and it's a lot about female empowerment and just wonderful lessons, for my young daughter. So I read it with her.
Amazing. That's a good message for her to learn, and it's good for her to learn it at a very early age as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Elias, for joining us today on Navigating the Customer Experience. We really appreciate you taking time out of your very busy day to hop on here with us today, share some great nuggets, insights, information on what you've learned through past experiences, as well as from collecting customer feedback on, just the importance of ensuring that your customers are delighted, that they have a contactless experience, and also, more importantly, that they really enjoy the interaction with you. Their needs and desires have been fulfilled, but it's something they would want to repeat again, which would mean that they now become your advocates and your word of mouth advertisers. So we just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Unique. It's been wonderful being with you.
All right. So just want to remind our listeners, please feel free to hop onto Facebook and join our private Facebook group. It's called Navigating the Customer Experience Community, and follow us on Twitter at NavigatingCX. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant. We also have a new book available on Amazon, The ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience. It's available in ebook and paperback. So if you want to increase revenue in your organization, build a stronger service culture, and create employees or develop employees who are really mastering service delivery in your business, you need to grab a copy of this book. Until next time, I'm your host, Yannick Grant.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.